Welcome back to Boring Reviews.
Boring land.
Oh, just kidding.
Blasphemer!
All
Hello,
right.
Boring Review Nation!
Kind of pointless.
We know all things. Hello, Boring Review Nation! Gabe!
Nick.
And we are here today to bring you guys another reaction, fresh off the presses, at least 2 or 3 days fresh. That's fresh for us. Nick, tell everybody what we're going to be reviewing.
So we will be reviewing a film that is getting a lot of buzz, a lot of press around the world, not just in India, and that is Minnal Murali. And Minnal Murali is a superhero film coming from the Malayalam industry, and this is directed by Basil Joseph. This is starring Tovino Thomas and Guru Samasundaram in our lead roles. Also has a supporting role by Femina George playing Bruce Lee. Not that Bruce Lee. And I can't remember the kid's name, but the kid in it was fantastic as well. This is a film that, from my understanding, and that people, you can comment below early on, let us know as you're doing that. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. You'll let me know if I'm wrong, but superheroes films aren't really something that there's a plethora of in the Indian film industry. Maybe some of the industries have more than others. I'm not sure, but I haven't seen too many of them. And for this one, when we reacted to it, I thought like, okay, this has something to it. I'm really interested. I really want to watch this. I watched this on Christmas Day. I had to watch it that night. And I put my instant thought reaction. I said, I like this movie a lot. Is it a perfect film? No. But I like this movie a whole lot. I liked it way more than I didn't like it. And I'm excited to talk about it. But Gabe, I want to know, what was your instant reaction? We'll start off non-spoilers for just a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen, and then we're going to get into spoilers. Non-spoiler wise, what was your instant reaction when you're done watching this film?
You know, the first thing I thought about when I thought about this film, and you see me wearing my, of course, my attire, I love May the Villains. And they did something that honestly, both Marvel and DC have struggled with, and now they're getting it correct, which is making a compelling antagonist. You got to have it. Yes. If not, again, it's a weak story. You know what I'm saying? So I enjoyed that they explored it that much. I enjoyed this film a lot. Okay, is it a perfect film? By no stretch of the imagination. The reality is, I love superhero films, Nick, and you know that I put Endgame in one of my top 3 movies of all time. People say you're crazy. I don't care. Listen, top grossing film of all time. I have never been to another film other than maybe Passion of the Christ, where there were people in the movie theater literally bawling. You and I watched that together during those scenes in Endgame. It was a movie theater experience. So to me, I don't care about the the art or the whatever, all the stuff that the critics are going to talk about, the filmography, this, that, the other. It was one of the greatest movies of all time, one of the greatest movie going experiences of all time. Now, I'm biased, as you guys can see in the back. I'm a huge comic book nerd. With that being said, it's hard for me not to like a comic book movie. There's very few that I'm just like, I'm absolutely going to trash. Okay, this one is one of the better ones I've seen. I don't understand why this went directly to Netflix. It has to be because of COVID, because I feel like this movie could have been so much better because the flaws that it does have are technical. And to me, that's a budget thing. You know what I mean? The story's amazing. The story is absolutely compelling. I mean, I don't know how to talk about it without ruining it. All I'm saying is, DC, pay attention. All right? You got a Black Adam movie coming out. Don't mess it up. Don't mess it up. All right? Honestly. Just, I don't know how to
let me piggyback off of that, because that's one of the things I was going to say. And I love that you said it. Makes for more of a natural conversation. So, going into spoilers now. It's all spoilers, all that kind of stuff. You have something like Superman Returns that came out, 2006 or something like that, Brandon Ruth. Right. I'm a huge, huge Superman fan. And this film had a few, in my opinion, references to Superman and some other characters as well. But right. You have a Superman film where you have one of the most recognizable characters of all time, Superman, okay? Right. One of the most beloved, some of the best minor characters. And some great villains. All you got to do is don't mess up the plot. And in my opinion, they messed up the plot in Superman Returns. And in so many other films, not just DC, but definitely DC recently, besides a few really good ones. This film did not have any recognizable heroes that I know of. Let me know if Minnal Murali is an actual hero. I don't think it is. I don't think it's based on a comic book or anything like that. This film, you talked about budget. This film had a budget of 18 crores. That's $2.5 million. Matrix Resurrections just spent almost 200 million. It's not going to recoup that money, ladies and gentlemen. Not even close. No. 2.5 million. And when you sit there and you watch it, when I watched it, I watched it once, but I was watching that initial time, I did not feel like, oh man, oh, that's low budget. Oh, that's garbage. Oh, that's this or that. I didn't feel it at all. When you rewatch it and you hear the budget was so low, you can see, okay, here. But for me, it doesn't take you out of the film. $2.5 million. And they put a film that, again, I'm not going to say it's the greatest film of all time, but this was a really, really good movie. Superhero films, as far as films go, they get automatically a notch down for most of the movie-going world. Oh, I'm not going to watch that. Martin Scorsese, all these big-wig guys don't even touch comic book movies. They can't handle it being a real film. This movie had a lot of superhero aspects to it. It was a superhero film, but it was also a film on its own as well. And that's one of the things I loved about it. So I'm glad that you touched on that.
You know, for me, when I think of Malayalam films, right away, Drishyam, right? And what I like is that they explore both sides of the story, and it's really a character study of how one becomes a villain, how one becomes a hero. You know, there's a lot of callbacks to other superhero movies. Like, for instance, now that we're in spoilers, one of the first things that right away hit me was when he's testing out his powers, and we're talking about Jason, right? He's in the kitchen and he's putting the pots and stuff like that together, and he does all that. Was like straight out of Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire when he catches all MJ's lunches, you know what I'm saying? And I love that callback to it. One of the things that I initially, you know how sometimes you see like the cover of a film or you see something, I hated the costume. And I was like, this is so dumb. Oh, why, guys? Why? And then when you understand that he didn't even know what a superhero was. And his introduction into superheroes was his nephew, who said, oh, Superman, Spider-Man, whatever, here's comic books. So it would make sense. Okay, in his eyes, this is what a superhero should look like. That's one of the things I think that Marvel has done so well, where, especially in the MCU, their costumes are functional. It makes sense. Captain America's costume is tactical gear. You know what I'm saying? Right. Iron Man is actually iron. You got stuff that makes sense, not like sometimes it come up and you're like, really? Why? That doesn't make any sense. One of my favorite lines from X-Men. Remember when Wolverine's like, "You guys wear those?" The Hugh Jackman in the original, the black leather. He's like, "What? Is yellow spandex better? Well, if I'm gonna go to battle, I'd rather have on black leather than yellow spandex." You know what I mean? So they make it functional, and I enjoyed that they explained that into story. Like I said, the story, Nick, is amazing. And we're in spoilers, so let me go ahead and give you a quick synopsis.
Well, before you do, let me just say one thing about the costume. This might be the first superhero we've ever had that was actually a tailor, so he can actually make his costume. All these people, they're always making their costume, like Tobey Maguire. I had this idea. Where'd you learn to sew, for crying out? This guy was a tailor. He knew what was going on, and I love the whole face mask part of it too. Again, there's so many. Before you get to go for the synopsis first, and then I want to say a few things, but go for it.
So really quickly, there's this once in a life, not in a lifetime, I think they said once in a 500-year event where basically planets align, and whenever this happens, it causes storms.
I love that superhero-wise. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Part of the storms comes with lightning and thunderstorms. Lightning happens to strike two guys at the same time from the same storm, and it gives them both powers. Now, both these guys are from the same village, and honestly, I really like, and I'll talk about this later, how you're not really sure who the good guy or the bad guy is initially, but it shows you how one becomes a villain and how one becomes a hero. And really, it's just circumstance, all right? It's the circumstances of your life, what's already happened to you at that point or juncture in your life, nurture versus nature, right? And you understand, like, this is probably one of the most sympathetical villains I can remember, because I loved his story. And I'm like, oh man, you know what I mean? You're rooting for the villain. And okay, guys, I know I root for the villain. Look, I got my Loki hat on, the villains, but they actually gave me reason to root for the villain, right? And man, you understand that both these guys aren't really that different. And as you go through their story, you realize that they both have the same similar sub-skill of powers. And of course, one goes dark with it, one goes light side eventually with it after learning some hard lessons. And at the end, the day is saved. I don't want to completely, give away all the spoilers of the movie so you guys can still go watch it. But that's pretty much the synopsis. And there were a couple of scenes to me that were so important, Nick, because it really showed that, I forgot what film or who said it, but the difference between being a hero and a villain is that close, bro. Because didn't Minnal Murali like go into that theater and beating up cops and or whatever? Like that was the first thing he did with his powers. That's the first thing he did with his newfound powers. And I get it. The cops have been what do you call it? Threatening him. The cops have been ruining his life. The head cop whose daughter he wanted to get married with tried to ruin his life. His brother-in-law. But still, that's what you do with your powers. So again, like, whoa, is he really a hero? And I love
he wasn't that knight in shining armor the entire time. He had layers to him. The villain had layers to him. And oh man, I mean, just talking about makes me like this movie even more, to be honest with you. This is a dual origin film type thing. And like to your point, you don't see that too often. You don't have almost the same shared screen time with your hero and your villain. And I was rooting for Sheba, right? Or Shibu. I was rooting for him almost all the way through the film. I'm more of a hero guy. Gabe's more of the villain guy. But I was sitting here watching it. I had assumed that she was going to become the villain. I did, because I've seen the trailers. But I didn't want it to happen. And even when he went, besides the very end, when he went full villain, he still had some reasoning about him. Guru, who played Shibu, was fantastic. I mentioned on my Instant Thoughts video, he stole the show. I'm a huge fan of Tovino Thomas. I saw Tovino Thomas in a film earlier this year that I reviewed it. Nobody watched, by the way. How dare you? Called Kala, where this guy, he was grimy. He was spoiled. He was a brat, but he was really good at playing that darker character. And I heard from someone on Instagram that he wanted to play the villain in this film. Basil Joseph thankfully said, no, we have a different idea for you. And I was thinking about it, even though he can go there, Guru, I think, played it so well that I can't see anyone else playing that role. That's how good. I never heard of this guy, Guru. I never seen this guy before. He was fantastic in the role. But you have that whole situation. You want him to get the girl, for crying out loud. And you're rooting for him more than you're rooting for Jason throughout the first hour and a half of this film. And that's what makes the movie so good. I mentioned in my instant reaction that Basil Joseph, this is his third full feature-length film. It seemed like it was his 12th, because he was really able to handle. You're juggling superhero tropes. Not that you have to put in there, but let's face it, it's a superhero film. But you're also juggling realistic abilities. You're juggling all these different things. Village life, for crying out loud. And you're not in the skyscrapers of New York. You're in the villages with the shanties or the houses or whatever. Right. Which was so cool. But just how it seemed more down to earth and realistic. But again, the actors did a fantastic job. Tovino Thomas didn't have to do too much here, but what he did was fantastic. The younger kid was fantastic. And let me just say this. I loved how we had different callbacks of comic book films. The bus scene reminded me of Superman. It just really did. In more than one Superman film, you had him saving a bus, typically with children. This was a bus with adults, but there was one child he had to save. He has a different costumes that he's wearing. He's running super fast. Him and the villain reminded me of, obviously the first thing is gonna be Scarecrow because of the mask, but it wasn't just that. There was all these small different callbacks to different things, which was cool. But the thing that I loved was seeing them. They had plenty of time to flesh out and get their powers. And this is where Indian films that are much longer, typically, even in the MCU film, this has an advantage for being a longer film because you have more time to let it breathe. You really don't get to see these guys in full action until like the last 25 minutes. But I'm okay with that because the way it progressed meant the ending meant so much more to me. And I love that.
So, talking about the performance by Guru, right, as Shibu, bro, I was rooting for him so hard. And I know everybody, again, guys, I root for villains all the time, okay? Especially compelling villains. But his story was, think about this, right? Again, this is why I love Malayalam films, because it's a character study on who we really are as people. first thing Guru did with or Shibu in the film with his powers is, oh, your daughter, you know, the girl he was in love with, your daughter needs an operation. This hospital's like, I told you before, she needs to have it. It's imperative. She's not going to survive, but bring me the money first. What? Like, if it's that serious, I'll operate and then I'll get you no, but bring me the money first. And what does he do with his powers? The first time he quote unquote commits a criminal act, it's for a good reason, to save a little girl's life. Is there a more virtuous thing than that? Okay. What did and I know you're gonna jump in there.
Real quick, why? What was his ultimate intent
Because he
for
was
saving her life?
Because he was in love with her mom.
He wanted to get on the mom's good side. Let's not turn him to a complete hero. He still had those intentions, but keep going.
But that's still the first time he did it. Again, your boy Jason, what does he do? Oh, this cop's have been making my life miserable. He didn't want me with his daughter, the head chief from town, my brother-in-law, whatever. I'm gonna go beat up some cops and embarrass them. Really? That's what you do with your powers?
He wouldn't let him get a passport so he can go to America. He wanted to go to America, make some money, do it right, impress the family, all for this girl. And not just that, the girl said goodbye to him instantly too. She's like, bye, I don't know who you are. That was jacked up.
Right. But he did it for his own personal reasons and his own it was more out of vengeance, right? Being vindictive. How many heroes are vindictive? Which, by the way, I love vindictive heroes. That's why I love Batman, because he is vengeance. You know what I'm saying? Like, vengeance. Like, that's why. So I can get down with that, but I love the fact that they explored. And at the beginning, you don't even know who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, the way they played this film out. Something else I wanted to touch on real quick, Nick. And you talked about this, and you're a very keen observer of storylines. I was confused in like the first maybe 20-30 minutes of this film, because they start off with the story of the little kid, right? And I should have known, but I'm like, man, the pacing is off. Like, what does this story of the little kid getting blown up have to do? Which one of them is it? I didn't even know which kid it was. And then you find out that, oh, it's actually the kid, Jason, because you think, oh, well, you know, Jason's dad was actually the actor. The way they came back, and again, in a shorter film, you may even have to cut that part out, because that was at least 15-20 minutes of the film. But the fact that they are able to pay that back later on, when the detective or the head chief tells them about his real father, and then that's where he gets the name Minnal Murali, you find out, Minnal Murali, because that was the character his dad was playing. And he asked him, is he a god? He's like, no, he's not a god. But when God is too busy, he comes in. Then he finally discovers his power. Like, I love that part of it, bro. Like, I need to get...
Yeah.
Bro, but I gotta disagree with you 100% on one thing. Give me $2 million. Give me $5 million. Give me $10 million, and this movie would have been MCU level. That's real. Better than some of the MCU. I absolutely hate it, dude. When I tell you, you know me. I absolutely hated the Hulk. I absolutely hated Thor: The Dark World.
Saying I prefer the smaller budget? I was just talking about how impressed I was they were able to do what they did with the smaller budget.
But what I'm saying is, there were a couple of scenes that I'm like, oh, come on, guys. Don't even put that in. Like, for instance, there were a couple of CGI scenes when they're using their powers and lifting up the rocks, and it was totally CGI. And you're like, oh, come on. There was another scene when he first uses his powers, one of the times he first uses his power, we're talking about Shibu, when he pushes the guy through, and it's like almost a cartoonish outline in the well that he pushes him through, remember? And he's like, oh, I'm going to come back and get you, whatever. I was like, oh, come on, guys. There's just a couple of scenes that if you get more money, it could have been done better. Now, sometimes more money doesn't mean that, because have you seen these deep fakes on the internet?
Bad CGI and some bad production on films that are 150 million plus.
And then some people are like, I did this CGI for 10 grand, or I did this CGI for 5,000. You're like,
$10.
You know what I mean? So there were just a couple scenes, and that's why I wish it wasn't Netflix, if it was just a theatrical release, because then the budget goes from 2 million to 5 million, and that cleans those things up for me. That's the only problems I had with the film. But as far as the storyline is concerned, the acting by a Guru, and I'm sorry, I know he's the villain, but he stole the show. He might as well be the lead actor in this film. You know what I mean? You're absolutely correct with that. When you came out of, you know, it's funny because Nick doesn't like villains, guys. Nick is, his favorite superhero is Superman. You know, he's the, you know, Captain America. He's a Boy Scout. And when he came out of this film, and the first thing he says is like, you know, on his instant reaction is, oh, Guru Shibu stole, like, wow, he's praising the villain? I haven't seen that since maybe Endgame when he was talking about Thanos.
Was he not amazing in this?
He was
My only
amazing.
complaint with the villain, and I excuse it. My only complaint is at the very, very end in that scene, which I thought was fantastic. I love the last act in this movie, even though it was full on superhero and this or that. The music when the bell falls on Jason, and then the music, and then Shibu turns around and the kid's like, "What?" And then you see him be able to exercise that power. I thought he was gonna fly, but he was able to exercise that power. I was like, "Oh!" Like, I love that scene. Even though CGI is not that great with the rocks, I love that scene. My only complaint with Guru is he was a little cartoonish, a little over the top. I get why he just got blown up. He's hysterical right now, and it's really good. A quick nugget they put in this plot that really helps explain a lot of stuff is that he comes from a family of madness. It's in his blood. Right. Stick away. I'm not going to let you have my whoever that girl was, niece or whatever, cousin, because you come from a family of madness, and I can't have it around her. He went a little more into that madness when everything started blowing up and everything. And even though that might have been more conducive of what would happen in that situation where he's in shock, it kind of took me out of his character a little bit. So I didn't think he needed to go full cartoonish at that end there. But let me say, probably the second best scene after the whole bell raising up the very end, and it was heartbreaking, is when the girl comes to his house and he's got everyone, the whole mob coming after him. And the girl comes to his house. He notices the daughter's sleeping. The girl's in the house, and she says, "I want to be with you. Will you be with me?" And I'm watching it in my bedroom. No. I mean, I'm freaking out because I know what's going to happen.
He's ready to go.
The emotion of that, I don't know what the actress's name, but she was fantastic. The emotion that she portrayed and his realization and his joy. That's the one thing I loved about Guru, is he had that childlike joy throughout the role. He would just get so excited about it. My wife walks in at one point. She's like, "Oh, he's really happy about something." He was so happy when that happened. And then when the house exploded, oh my gosh. I mean, that literally broke my heart. And it wouldn't have broken my heart if this film didn't earn that moment. This film earned that moment. I'm ready to give this a grade because I don't want to give too many things away. If there is someone who still has not seen it, it is amazing to watch.
I believe her name is Devi Chandra, and she plays Gariji. Gariji, is that how you say Gariji? But yeah, you're absolutely right. That was a great scene. And again, it explains why he went over the top, because now when he's ready to bow out, he doesn't. You guys go and set his house on fire, and you got the girl back there. Like, you could see that was such a heartbreaking moment. And I completely agree with you. I think that even the costume, again, you're right, Nick. They set it up by him being. They could have chose for him to be anything else, but they chose for him to be a seamstress, right? Or because he put together. They set everything up. The plot is amazing. Do you hear this, Michael Bay? And not all the CGI and all the money in the world with your $20 $30 million on these Transformer movies. All you get is explosion CGI. Give me plot. Give me a story. Set it up. You know what I mean? Gosh, he's so bad. Michael Bay drives me crazy because he's ruined some of my. I used to love Transformers. Until he got his hands on it. But
there's great acting, and that actress's name actually is Shelley Kishore, who plays Usha. We keep going.
Okay. Ooh, Shelley Kishore plays Usha. Awesome. So, with that being said, Nick, again, I'm with you. I'm ready to give this a grade. What I will say is that hopefully we didn't spoil it for you guys. Please go and watch this film and support it, because to your point, I think the only other Indian film that I know of that's like a straight comic book film is the one with what's it called? Griji with Grida with Hrithik Roshan. Remember, he's got like the black leather on or whatever.
Yeah.
There's like 3 different parts of it.
Yeah, that's the only thing we've reacted to. Yeah.
And they will not make more if it does not get support. Like right now, Spider-Man just made $1 billion, guys. $1 billion. And all Hollywood is talking about is superhero oversaturation, because to what Nick mentioned earlier, all these, directors who are gatekeepers hate these movies, and I don't know why they do. So you've got to support them if you want to see more of this stuff, because if it comes out and it doesn't get a lot of support, I can guarantee you're not going to get another big director who's going to attach his name to him. And I think that they did a fabulous job with this film. So please go out and watch this. Nick, I'm going to go ahead and jump in and say first, I love this film. As much as I want to give it an A, I got to give it a B plus because I cannot get over the CGI. I'm so disappointed with taking this great story, this great acting, and then giving me some cheesy, cheap CGI. And I'm like, come on, guys, give me $5 million more. You know, like, really? Really? You could have done better. You didn't do right by this director or these actors because the story was great, the plot was great, the acting was great, but there were some scenes, and you go back and watch it, Nick. I know sometimes when you watch it, you're like, the story's so good I can get past that, but I can't get past some of those scenes where the rocks almost look fake, and you know what I mean? Like, it looks like really, really just bad CGI. Like, to me, that in and of itself knocked it down from an A minus, which I normally would have given it, to a B plus. But that's just my personal grade.
Honestly, I probably would have given it a B or a B plus, but since we were talking about, and I keep thinking about these things that have stayed with me and I've really enjoyed, I've got to go again to an A minus. That seems like I've graded like the last 5 movies an A minus because $2.5 million is what the man was given. And this is what he did. For me, and this is just a personal preference, special effects are very low on my list of what makes a great film. Now, if I see a great special effects, that's the bus scene from Shang-Chi. It's fantastic. But I still have Shang-Chi lowered like a B minus or a C plus for a film, right, even though that bus scene's fantastic. So for me, it's all about story, acting, character development, plot development. And this had all of those things. So it's an A minus for me. Let us know what you think about this film. I feel like, just from what I'm hearing, I haven't watched any reviews that what I'm hearing, a lot of people are kind of where we're at, maybe a little bit in between, a little lower, a little higher, but most people are enjoying this film. And I'm willing to bet that this film could be one of those films in the film industry in India, Malayalam, where it's like, it sets the bar. And we want to make other superhero films. Is it as good as Minnal Murali? Is it less? Is it better? That type of thing. Let us know what you all think. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us today. And until next time.
We know all things.